So, are there signs before the second coming? And is this coronavirus one of them? Is the coronavirus a sign or an indication that the Lord is near? Let's look at the Bible. In the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13, "But we do not want you to be uninformed, brethren, about those who are asleep, that is, Christians who have already died, so that you will not grieve as do the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who have fallen asleep in Jesus. For this we say to you by the word of the Lord." That is, by this I'm speaking by inspiration, he says, and this is a commandment from God, "that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore, comfort one another with these words." Then it says, "Now as to the times and epochs, brethren," that is, specific time and also general time. And it would be the times and the epochs for the Lord's return. That is the specific time, or even just a very general time for that return. "You have no need of anything be written to you. For you yourselves know full well," that is, Paul had taught upon this specifically and clearly, "that the day of the Lord will come just like a thief in the night." Always been interesting to me how people really get caught up in signs, the signs preceding supposedly the arrival of Jesus, when in this chapter, Paul is very clear, there are no signs. Jesus will show up like a thief in the night, completely unexpected. And there's no inside information in the Bible on this. There's not a code, etc. There's nothing between the lines where you can kind of get a jump on everybody else and know it's going to happen, etc. It will be as much a surprise for Christians as it would be for anyone as far as when he will arrive. Now, the chapter goes on to point out that Christians can be prepared. That is, being faithful, you're always ready. But as far as the timing of the event, there is no way to predict the timing of this event. No information has been revealed upon it. It's clear he's coming like a thief. Then it says, "While they are saying peace and safety," that's the wicked. And so the coming stated in 13 and following is a coming that happens at the same time that sudden destruction comes upon the wicked. All right? So I know a lot of people talk about the rapture, supposedly a secret, silent coming for Christians only. That we'll wake up one day, the world will wake up one day, and all the faithful Christians will have been magically removed from the earth. I don't know a single passage in the Bible that teaches that, and I don't know where anybody ever came up with that idea. Because if you read the Bible, particularly these passages are talking about a coming that involves Christians. And it talks about when Christians are raised, where all dead Christians are raised and the living Christians are transformed, and we all meet the Lord in the air. And at the exact same time, destruction suddenly comes upon the wicked. So this idea that Christians are secretly and silently removed from the earth, well, this coming is very loud here. It's the voice of the archangel, it's the trump of God, and also it's not that Jesus comes and snags all the Christians and then years go by and finally judgment comes upon the wicked. This section of passages is clear. On the day, the specific day that Jesus arrives for Christians, sudden destruction comes upon the wicked. At the same time, it is the day of the Lord. Nothing is said here about Jesus reigning on earth, etc. In fact, in 2 Peter chapter 3, the same statement is used as far as the day of the Lord and coming like a thief. Verse 10, "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, in which the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed with intense heat, and the earth and its works will be burned up." On the exact same day that Jesus comes for Christians, and sudden destruction comes upon the wicked, at the exact same moment, the entire physical universe is removed. And that's just a simple teaching in the Bible. So this idea of Jesus comes for Christians secretly and silently, then we got time goes by, then he comes and reigns on the earth for a long time, etc. Then there's one resurrection, another resurrection, etc. It's like, where does the Bible teach that? In John chapter 5, 28 and 29, Jesus there is very clear. Do not marvel at this. An hour is coming which all who are in the tombs will hear his voice, and will come forth, those who did good deeds to a resurrection of life, those who committed evil deeds to a resurrection of judgment. That is, the resurrection of everyone, righteous and the wicked, happens at the same day. John chapter 6, verse 40. And this is the will of my Father, that everyone who beholds the Son and believes in him will have eternal life, and I myself will raise him up on the last day. So Jesus says that when Christians are raised, that's not the beginning of everything, that's the end of everything. When Christians are raised, that's the last day. There's nothing after that as far as events on this earth are concerned. So you might be thinking, though, well, Mark, what about Matthew chapter 24? Doesn't Matthew 24 have signs preceding Jesus' coming? Well, a couple of things to note in Matthew 24. First of all, verse 34, truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. That time locks everything previous to that point. That time locks everything in verses 1 through verse 33 to happening within the generation that was alive on earth when Jesus taught. I know early on in Matthew chapter 24, first of all, Jesus is talking about the destruction of the temple that was then standing. That temple was destroyed in AD 70 by the Romans. I know the disciples will word their question in, what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age or the world, verse 3. But there's a major problem with the disciples asking about the second coming. They did not even know that Jesus was going to leave. Okay? I can understand when Jesus talks about the destruction of the temple that was standing in their day, how they would realize, well, that would have to be the end of the age. All right? But the problem with them asking about the second coming is they did not even realize that Jesus was going to be leaving them. All right? And I think we find that clear in the Gospels. All right. Now, he talks about things that he considers the beginning of birth pangs. But he is not talking about events leading up to the second coming. All right? And the following things would make that very clear. Okay? First of all, in verse 16, he says, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Okay. Matthew 24 up to verse 34 are talking about a judgment that would happen in Judea, a judgment from God. And that's why I know in the verses that follow here, there's a lot of language that sounds like the second coming, but go back to the Old Testament and you'll find that that language was used when God brought down nations like Babylon in the Old Testament. Yes, this is a judgment from God. And this is a coming of Christ, that is true. But it's not the final coming. It's not the second coming. This is the coming of Jesus upon the city of Jerusalem for their rebellion. That's what this coming is about. Because this coming is about a coming or a judgment that you could flee from. You can't flee from the second coming, okay? This is specifically about what happens in Judea. This is a coming that if you're on your housetop, you don't go down into the house to grab anything. You get on the back stairs and leave. This is a coming that, if it happened in winter, would make a difference. Second coming is not going to make a difference to anybody if it happens in the winter. This is a coming in verse 20 in which the Sabbath day in this culture was still being observed by many people. That is the Jewish people. And thus travel on that day could be difficult. The gates of the city could be locked. You couldn't get out of town. This is also a coming in verse 19 that it would make a big difference whether or not you were pregnant or had small children. Second coming doesn't matter if you're pregnant or not. Okay, but this is a coming you can flee from. This is a physical judgment that's coming upon a specific city. In fact, Luke will make it very clear. I know Matthew says in verse 15, when you see the abomination of desolation. Luke defines specifically what that is. And Luke is very specific on that. He says in Luke 21:20, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then recognize that her desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Okay. The abomination of desolation in this text is clearly stated in Luke. It's when they would see the Roman armies start to approach Jerusalem to surround it. That was the signal that you needed to get out of town then and there. There is no time to waste. All right. It's clear, though, in Thessalonians and also in 2 Peter that the actual second coming involves everyone. It's not secret or silent. There are no signs that precede it. There's no inside information or Bible code about it. Okay, very clear. It happens as a thief in the night. It's a thief in the night for Christians as well as non-Christians. The way you prepare for it is you don't observe world events, okay? You don't get in there and understand all the ins and outs of politics, okay? That's not the way. The way that you prepare for the second coming is you obey Jesus, you live by the New Testament, and you follow God's commands, and you live a faithful life. That's the way you prepare for it. What is sad is I see many believers and many people that profess to be Christians spending a whole lot of time researching world events and politics when they should be spending a lot more time reading their Bibles. I find a lot of religious people know a lot about world events and politics and this sort of theory and that sort of theory, but you know what? You know what they've missed? They missed a simple command: he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. Make sure you got the plan of salvation right before you study anything else. My name is Mark, and until next time, I'll see you later.